la! Your dream vacation to Hong Kong starts from rupees 74,999 only with GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Hello everyone, welcome to Galatta Plus. I'm going to start with Dia. Hello, you're like the sole female actor in this group, so I think women first. But we're talking about your latest film, and at the same time, your first film has been re-released. How cool is that?
Thank you.
This is like slightly surreal, right?
It is. It's been a really special few days. We all know that when the film released, it bombed so badly at the box office that Maddie and I were written off.
Really?
And we worked really hard to sustain a career and to kind of just come back and be able to do work and find jobs. And 5 years after the film had released, it started being watched again. And then about 15 years ago, Maddie called me and he said, "Do you know that our first film has a cult following?" And I was like, "No." Because social media hadn't taken on the way it has now. And then I started discovering how this film was viewed by individuals 50 times, 100 times, 300 times. And the kind of craze the music has, one had heard of at some level because radio stations used to play them regularly. But to know that there's such a large following for the film and that they've gone back into theatres, are buying tickets and viewing the film 23 years after its release is quite surreal.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. And now you have.
IC814.
Yeah, I know. It's there. And Anubhav, we met, I think, before Bheed.
After me.
After Bheed, yeah. So this continues your documenting of real life events and situations, except that this happened a long time ago. 25 years after, what made you say? See, the point is that in this intervening time, A, terrorism has become much more of a common thing, and B, the terrorism movie, that is movies featuring terrorist hijacks or something else, has become like much more frequent than it was 25 years ago. Given that so much of cinematic stuff has happened around this topic, what made you say, yes, I know this has been shown at some shape or form before, but I need to say this now?
It was offered to me when Netflix had already worked on it for a couple of years out of the captain's book. And they had a script when they reached out to me. So I read that, and as a viewer, I was getting very drawn into what. So most of it was about the aircraft, inside the aircraft, because the captain wrote it. But as a viewer, I was getting very intrigued about what's going on down there. Who are these people? Who has sent them? What do they want? What is the government doing about it? And things like those. And then I went back to them after reading that script and I said, I'm very interested in what's going on down there. So they said, okay. I said, this means a rewrite. They said, okay. And then we started researching again. Prashant and Aitashan, the writer, and then we sought the help of Adrian Levy, and then the three of us. And then a lot of stuff was read, a lot of official records, a lot of stuff. And that was fascinating. You asked me now, and this is when, for the first time, I thought that I never considered that a lot of work has been done. The late 90s is the time when this entire act of terrorism across the world was starting.
Yeah.
In fact, the first suicide attack on Indian soil happened right after this event. This is the time when Al-Qaeda was working on using an aircraft as a weapon. So, and no wonder 10 months after that, 9/11 happens. Mm-hmm. So all that was already under prep. And is when this small act happens, for them, a small act happens. And but I never considered it like that. I never thought of it like that. I just got fascinated by the events that unfolded before me during my research, and I thought they were worthy of telling.
Okay. इतने सारे लोग हैं तो even if I ask one person, अगर किसी और का, if you want to chime in, please do so, because otherwise we'll just have to do like a classroom, okay, you raise your hand, I raise your hand, it's kind of a thing. So,
We just didn't want to interrupt.
yeah. So, but there is a one thing that, let's just clear the elephant in the room first, just, the reactions to what's happening. from all of you.
Other than all the amazing love the series
Yes,
is
the
receiving.
love is there.
I don't think we've had such a unanimous vote on how powerful the telling has been.
Right. So we'll celebrate the love. But before that, that's why I said let's just get
Okay.
this out of the way. What do you think about this? कि ये लोग जो कह रहे हैं कि यहाँ थोड़ा white washing हुआ है या like जो लोग हैं उनका नाम क्यों नहीं ले रहे हो? What do you think about that? अभी सोशल मीडिया इतना चर्चा हो रहा है.
What do you have to say about it?
You're asking me the question.
Yeah, because I'm here to answer your questions, not
Yeah.
their questions.
Right. So we are living in a time where everything is being scrutinized a certain way and filtered through a certain gaze. So yes, this like you do say that this is a process of result of research, and that they did nickname each other a certain way. But given the fact that this happened 25 years ago, I'm not sure how many people remember, or given the fact that many people on social media are very young and very, how do you put it, volatile. I think there is a certain narrative that carries on. So I was like, how do you process this narrative? Do you just ignore it? Do you just like do you say, I'm going to concentrate on the love?
Yeah, that's precisely what one has been doing, because I know what I've done, and there is too much love for it, and yeah, that's enough actually, and more to fill in my days.
I think what matters is the intention, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the intention of the show is to cause any disharmony. That's the most important thing, and that's our truth.
Right.
And the second thing is, I think everything is verifiable, everything is factual, that is being questioned. So, how do you debate that?
You don't debate that, but I'm also wondering कि जब ऐसा होता है, see, let's take Vijay, right? आपको क्या लगता है कि filmmakers या actors को एक counter जैसा देना चाहिए, like she's saying कि like these are verified facts, ऐसा कुछ, or do you think that will create an unending debate? कि like
What happened was, I think, I saw a remarkable way that even the media is playing a role in this. I feel like a lot of people are just speaking up for the show.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I just feel like this is the biggest victory.
right.
When
Because they can verify information.
yeah, and people are really are able to explain to the concerned parties what actually went down. These names were certain. These were the names that were given, and this was part of the union minister's press release from 2000 January. So a lot of people are speaking up, and therefore I feel like what we are doing right now is actually coming together and being with the show.
Right.
Yeah, and
standing for the
celebrate
show.
our collective hard work and the
Yeah.
amazing work of this man sitting here.
Right. One thing that both are scenes, they were very affecting, and one scene that I really liked was, among many, was when your wife is putting your daughter to bed, and TV pe, there's this news that should you have taken off in Amritsar, should you have stayed in Amritsar, should you have done this, should you have done that. It occurred to me that was the beginning of taking
Yeah.
people's opinions,
Correct.
like whether they were qualified or not. Like just get a
the
debate going.
Yeah.
Before that, it would be reported in a newspaper, and that would be that. कि like वही था. But अब it was like this, suddenly people are called. आपको क्या लगता है ऐसा करना चाहिए था?
Correct.
उन्होंने ठीक किया कि नहीं? All that kind of stuff was happening, and I love the fact that it was in the background, like it wasn't like you don't show the television set.
Yeah.
You just show the wife, and then she's like trying to process this whole
Yeah.
information, because it's probably so new to her, because she doesn't even know if these guys are experts or are these guys just like randomly saying things. But that again was like, so there are so many things that this coincides with, like for example, the birth of that kind of discussion on television.
Correct.
Right? It's like
I absolutely agree with you. In fact, there are scenes in which they discuss the possibility of somebody taking the blame, and that narrative ran for a bit. And again, it was another scene in which Diya's character and Amrita's character are debating the same situation.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're saying he did what he was supposed to do,
Right.
whereas this is the narrative we need to run.
And
So that
they
is
take a
happening.
decision, these three men sitting here.
Yeah.
Even amongst us, even in the control room, if you look at, everybody has a different opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody comes from one person avoids taking the responsibility and leadership, which is like, let's say in the series it's offered to Kumar, and he's like not sure whether he should take the responsibility, because along with it will come the blame or the glory, but he's shy of that, right? I mean, we are going with that mindset when he's reacting to certain things. And even amongst our discussion, like, he wants a very aggressive
Yeah.
posture. I want a diplomatic decision to be taken. So it is if you put 10 people in the room and give them a situation, they are going to react in different ways and bring their opinions or bring their approaches to solving the problem, right? So I think that's quite well depicted in a sense.
Yeah,
I'm saying
yeah.
the debate that you're talking about is not just outside, but also within the characters of the series.
Right, but I was also talking about the fact that
Media
was
was
where you guys are at
transitioning
least
also.
qualified in some way. But that was the time then when television started, erupting in
I
a
don't
big
think
way.
anybody needs to be qualified to have an opinion.
Yeah, but
This is
certain
what is happening today anyway.
Right.
So everybody is entitled to an
and that was the time it all
Yeah.
kind of began.
Yeah.
So that's what I was.
Yeah, it was just the beginning.
And he's touched on
Pre-internet.
that.
Yeah.
He's very interesting.
Very-
There's
very
there
obliquely
tongue-in-cheek
touched on-
moments
yeah,
also
yeah,
between
yeah.
Amrita's and my character. In fact, I feel a very big part of our track is about this.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is about this very question.
Right.
I mean, even in especially this kind of a thing where so many people were saved, okay,
Yeah.
there's always going to be an opinion of what else could have been done. Any situation if you take, even
Right.
any historic event in the world, could somebody have done something different? Is always going to be a question, right?
Right.
But I'm saying the outcome was, I think, in my personal opinion, I think collectively they achieved something
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the chaos, because nobody can rehearse for something like this. Nobody can prepare for something like this. It's a crisis situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're
And how do people
responding in
react?
real time.
Yeah, so it was like, for me when I was watching it, it was like the birth of what we see today as
Yeah.
like a bit of a monster, which is this television thing that always goes on, discussing everything in like in a flash. इनका आपका रिश्ता क्या है इनके साथ कि like हमेशा आपको ऐसे रोल्स देते हैं जो बहुत ही डिफरेंट है. दिस इज लाइक कोई कॉन्ट्रैक्ट है क्या कि लाइक अनुभव सिन्हा अगर कोई मूवी बने तो आप लोगों को बुला के कुछ अलग सा अजीब सा रोल दे दें?
I want for that day to arrive when you ask me the same question.
Oh, you
Yeah.
have. You were in
No.
You were in
I'm not there all there yet.
उतना strike rate
It'll
नहीं है
happen
इनका.
soon.
इनका strike rate
इनका बहुत
एकदम
Strike rate बहुत ज्यादा है.
ज़्यादा है.
हाँ. तो ये क्या हो रहा है यहाँ पे? This is like
नहीं क्या ऐसा होता है, यहाँ पे भी है और बाहर भी होता है कि एक टीम बन जाती है
हाँ.
और कंफर्ट लेवल बढ़ जाता है डायरेक्टर का भी, एक्टर्स का भी. तो हम लोगों का दोस्ती भी है और साथ में एक वर्किंग रिलेशनशिप भी है. सो हम शुरू से काम कर रहे हैं और ये का है, मैं कहूँगा कि ये बोलते हैं कि मुझमें इनको कोई कॉमेडियन दिखाई नहीं देता है, इनको दिखाई देता है उनके एक मेनेस,
हाँ.
एक वो. तो दैट्स व्हाई आई थिंक ही राइट्स एंड गिव मी दैट काइंड ऑफ कैरेक्टर्स.
so आपको मेनस कैसे दिखाई दिया?
I
है ना?
पता नहीं मुझे दिखता है. There are more actors in the business where I see them very differently.
हाँ.
Like I never find he's a very funny guy in life. I mean, at least a lot of fun guy. But actually, I'm sorry, but these two, when I'm writing, they appear inside my script.
हाँ.
A lot of times, at times I'm trying to just throw them away. No. Because then I get bound by that personality in my writing. So then I tell them, no, but they are there. So one character suddenly becomes Manoj
सबको
Pava, one
बता दो
character
ये
suddenly
क्या
becomes Poon
है?
Mishra.
कुछ जादू है?
But
बताइए.
it was against the grain. Like he doesn't offer him particularly comedic roles. I was known for
Yeah.
playing menacing characters on screen, and here I am playing
A hero.
Yeah,
You're
an
the
unsung
hero. Yeah, you're
and
like-
who's like who can't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the every audience member are supposed to believe and feel and trust in this person and make and have a faith in this gentleman.
Like this time he showed up in the script. I had never met him. I had never spoken to him. I could see him and I could hear him.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how the character turned out. A bit of South Indian twang, sincere, genuine, earnest, trying to do his best, trying to play by the book. without having met him, from whatever I'd seen at least 2 films of his, and it's just so
He
that's
saw the
how,
2 in which I was earnest.
He also, I found it interesting that he says you play by the book. You're not somebody who plays by the book.
I know, but it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good to have that perception. But how was it? This is a question I have to ask you because,
Yeah.
How was the reunion?
Pankaj.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
see,
what was this? 25, 24 years, 23 years, something?
Oh, yeah, 32.
32 since
32
Roja.
यार मतलब रहना है तेरे मेरे को
Yeah,
23 हो गया तो
yeah,
इनको तो
yeah.
32
Roja was 92.
92,
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
91 we were working on
Yeah,
it, so almost 33 years.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. I used to meet, a couple of times when I was in Mumbai, Boston, I used to, met him and whatever it is, but not been really in touch. So it was, and that too, he's my boss in this film. So we got a few days of, working together. So it was fun. It was fun. We were kind of reminiscing about what happened in
How filmmaking
Roja.
was those days and
not just filmmaking, just incidents that happened on location, and we were just having a few good laughs. So
okay, you had a few good laughs. Yeah, and how interesting that both of you have come back in another national kind of movie. That's like
for me, yeah, I was telling you, for me it was very different. First time I'm in an ensemble cast where we're all contributing towards the progress of the script.
Yeah.
The story is like what it is,
Right.
and then everybody has to, and then it's, kudos to them to have got so many who I think are, fine actors
Yeah.
together, and each of us playing a role. I think even if you look at that situation that you had, the control room, CMG and all that, I don't think it was like so organic,
Right.
the way things evolved. It was not like, everybody had bits and pieces of conversation, and it was like, if you look at a minute of that, it'll be like 10 people have said a few things.
Right.
So it was quite organic. It was not like, it was great give and take and great fun to.
Yeah.
actually I realized on set that I had put Arvind and Pankaj Bhai together, like they were from the same department.
Uh-huh.
So they were
Yeah.
always talking to each other. I realized this on set, not before that.
So Kumudji, when you look at your director and say कि like, because इनके movies में बहुत सारे scenes ऐसे होते हैं जिनमें बहुत सारे लोग होते हैं. There are lots of people doing lots of things. तो how does he direct those scenes? मतलब like हर एक को जाके आप ये करो, आप वो करो, ऐसे बोलते हैं कि like, और ये कहते हैं कि यही situation है, आप जो करना है कीजिए, मैं कैप्चर कर लूँगा. कैसे कर लेते हैं?
वो डिपेंड करता है, वो तो वही जवाब दे पाएंगे इसका.
नहीं, मुझे नहीं पता है.
नहीं पता है.
When he was asking, I didn't know the answer.
तो वो डिपेंड करता है सीन टू सीन कि कौन कौन है कमरे में और किसको कितना बताना है. कई बार आपको इशारा करके चले जाते हैं और वो ट्रस्ट करते हैं कि जो अनकही बात है वो समझ में आ जाएगी. कई बार कुछ लोगों को शायद ज़्यादा बताना पड़ता है, जहाँ कम्युनिकेशन की प्रॉब्लम होगी, थोड़ी सी कम्युनिकेशन की प्रॉब्लम है, सामने वाला समझ नहीं पा रहा है, तो शायद बताना पड़ता है. पर इन जनरल मेरे ख्याल से इनको इतना भरोसा है इनको अपने एक्टर्स के ऊपर होता है कि ये मानते हैं कि सब, और एक बार होने के बाद फिर इनको रियलाइज़ होता है कि अगर कुछ ऐड करना है तो आपके कान में आके धीरे से बता देंगे.
अच्छा.
और फिर आपके ऊपर जिम्मेदारी.
एक बात बताइए जो इन्होंने आपके कान में बताया.
मैं मेरी याददाश्त में गजनी हूँ, बहुत खराब
या
याददाश्त
बताना
है
नहीं चाहते.
मेरी. नहीं,
Because
नहीं,
इनके
नहीं.
No, but even Patra has been saying this in all
हाँ,
the
ये मैं अभी
interviews.
नया डिस्कवर कर रहा हूँ.
He's
कि मैं
not.
कान में आके बोलता हूँ कुछ.
He watches
Because
a
आपको कान फेस्टिवल
rehearsal.
जाना है. Sorry.
He watches a
Oh,
rehearsal.
that's
Well, there are two things that happen, man.
Yeah.
Actually, one is that actors are doing their thing; they have their lines, and he's actually while we are
Rehearsing.
rehearsing in a sense while
Blocking
there's a
or whatever.
choreography that's going on. He's chipping in with his inputs and his thoughts, and he says,
Right.
"No, I think we." And as he's doing that, he's also creating shots and the shot division based on what's coming. So I mean, I really respect him as a director for the kind of the way in which he directed, especially the CMG situation and all that, because it was quite dynamic. He didn't come with a fixed idea as to this is how he's going to shoot or this is how the shot is going to be, etc. But the shots were made very interesting, like including the coffee thing. you know the
Everything.
I don't know, you know the
Yeah.
way you follow the coffees thing, and there were 10 characters there, right? In that
In that,
CMG,
yeah, yeah.
I mean, 10 means whatever, 7, 8,
Yeah.
and and each of them were doing bits and pieces of the plan.
Yeah.
You know, the negotiation or the strategy, and each of them were getting inputs from their relevant sources, which would contribute to the decision-making process. So, so it was not, and it was a circular kind of a geography, and you know, each of them had cabins and sections. So I was actually, when I came and saw it, I was thinking, you know, there's got to be a lot of, like, if I'm going to keep the camera here, there's going to be activity there, which needs to suggest that there's some work going on there with these characters. So I would be in the background, or their division would be in the background, and Pankaj and you know, Nazir Bhai would be discussing something there, and we would have to come in. It's not easy,
Right.
but it was quite organic.
Right.
The way he was chipping in. So, I mean, to answer your question, I think he would definitely chip in as far as just the lines are concerned. But I think with this set of actors, it's may not be required as much. And I think that gave him the opportunity to create his shots and create the mood, etc.
Right.
No, but it's true for his style in general. With the work that I've done with him now, I'm not only talking about the last 3 films we've done together, but even before. Anubhav trusts his cast. He treats everybody as individuals who come with their own intelligence. And he believes that you've read the lines and you understood the lines and you understand the story in its full context, you know what you have to come into the room with. He may have a conversation with you about the character. He may take you to places you haven't actually thought of, but that's a part of the prep work, which is again not something that's tedious. Like, he's not somebody who workshops us or does too many readings. He doesn't believe in readings. He just gives us a free space. He knows where he's filming, so there's that blocking, that level of blocking that is done. And then he brings the actors into the room and he lets us play. And then while we're doing what we are, he's seeing it. And that's when he's blocking his shots. And if he wants anything changed, he'll suggest it to us then and there.
कान में बोलेंगे.
हाँ.
I had,
कि ये,
yeah.
it's a
sorry.
little बेचारा ये तो restricted जगह में था, तो
नहीं,
इसके
I
साथ
think
तो बहुत
after his
अलग.
joke, after his joke, I think people just said, okay, let's ignore this person.
So I was fascinated by 2 choices that he made with regards to Captain's portrayal. I think there was a moment in which the terrorists go inside and they beat him up, and he kept the camera outside. And there was a moment where Captain breaks down at the end of the
And he kept the
series,
camera away.
and the camera you don't see. I think he kept telling me, I don't want to see him cry. I don't want to see him get beaten up. I can't. So he was not able to bear with the thought of seeing this character going through something tragic or bad or ugly. So he kept the camera away. But you feel, you get a sense. And I feel like as an actor, it's nice to have that kind of, you know, a warm touch. Somebody being there.
Yeah, Anubhav's a warm hug on set. He's just somebody who makes you feel safe.
Nice.
I haven't felt safer with a director.
But Vijay, when
Can I repeat my joke because it was amazing?
Yeah,
okay,
please.
please.
ये कान में इसलिए बोलते हैं क्योंकि उनको कान फिल्म फेस्टिवल में जाना है. Sorry,
अच्छा,
so that
he didn't hear
everybody
it.
knows.
He
I
didn't
know,
hear
I
it.
have मेरा थोड़ा मार्केट है मेरा. I have कुंबुज जी. हाथ तो मिलाओ.
हाथ मिला लो, कोई.
We've had few interviews together. He knows.
Oh, you already
एक आधा आएगा.
you made this joke.
No, not
No,
this.
no, he
It's a
hasn't
new
made
one.
this joke. It's your special.
Oh, thank you. I'm very, very glad.
I think if I say it in my South Indian accent, it'll be better. वो can में क्यों बोलना चाहते हैं क्योंकि वो can कहना चाहते हैं.
Actually, it is can. So, but Vijay, when you're kind of, it's not just being stuck in this place. You know, actually, I love the first shot of you because you're coming out of, you know, putting on your jacket and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So it's like the very few moments of motion that you have where you're walking or, you know, your other thing.
Yeah.
But it's not the fact that you're stuck in a place so much because we've seen like there's this movie, I forget the name of it's called Buried or something, where there's a man inside a coffin.
Interstellar.
So it's not the fact that you're static, but you're not looking anywhere because you have to look in front. You can't look too much sidewards. You can't do too much of that, except for that maybe the rare shot that you look back and see that a guy has been sliced open by a thing. What are you reacting to? Like when you are seeing that, how are you, those expressions? See, you're looking at somebody, you're playing off their what their reaction shots are. When you're around, walking around, you don't have props, you don't have anything. All you have is those controls.
Yeah.
So what were you feeding off?
So there is a technique that I had to learn in which, so if I'm looking at, say, here, and I have this is real, the dashboard is real,
Right.
and everything outside the window is green screen.
Right.
And at the same time, there is probably 2 or 3 cameras placed.
Right.
So I have to avoid these 3 cameras. So I have to be mindful ki I can't make an eye contact with the camera directly. So I have to just look off the camera sometimes here and there, and then I have to create a visual in front of my eyes, and I have to find the right kind of place for it. So sometimes something that I'm seeing is very close to me, and sometimes what I'm seeing is far away, and something happens in your eyes when you're looking at this and this, So I had to. It was a very technical job, and all I had to do was like use every bit of my imagination to, because the flight simulation classes helped me because I saw what it looks like from the top, in night, in day. So I kept those memories with me, and I tried to kind of paste them onto what I was seeing. And what helped me was the busyness of the job, like just the sheer work that one has to do to just keep the flight afloat.
Right.
And at the same time process the information that is coming from here and there, and also process my emotional response or mental response to these things. So it was a very technical job, but in 1 day or 2 days I figured out if I just focus on doing the job as a pilot, everything else is taken care of. I don't have to perform. I just have to make sure that I feel like I'm on top of whatever 30,000 feet, 800 feet, 150 feet. And I have to, and sometimes he would give me a cue on the walkie, look left, the lights have come out on the Lahore track, and I look left, and of course I see that there is a ray of hope. So it all plays out. I think one choice that I made was because the camera was so close, I made sure that I don't do anything that I don't feel right. So I avoided the tendency to perform anything. Even if that means that it falls flat, I was okay with that. Whatever I felt, I had to play that only. उसके ऊपर मैंने कुछ नहीं करने की कोशिश की.
Right. That was something, because I was just wondering, what are you feeding off?
Nothing.
No, I think it was quite internalized. I could
Yeah.
see what you were feeling, and it was
Yeah.
quite effective, whatever he's
Actually,
doing.
yeah.
Sometimes I think you have to restrict actors physically
No, it does. It does.
No,
help.
but
to make them more internalized and
all
bring it
of
in their
us
eyes
watched
and
him.
things like that, right?
That is absolutely true. I feel like any kind of restrictions give space for something new
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
Always.
Because you have to communicate.
Yes.
So,
If you restrict somebody with the language that they know, they will find a way to communicate. They'll speak gibberish and make sense. But what I saw of Robert De Niro
Is there any
and
particular
Ronin,
reason you're telling him that?
yeah, because of the gibberish that I spoke and the language
No,
that
I did
didn't
one
know.
Telugu film, and all I had to do was learn these sounds. As much as I know 20, 50 words in Telugu, being born, raised in Hyderabad, but it's still a written word, a written dialogue is far different than the spoken, broken Telugu that I knew. So I just had to memorize the sound, and it is gibberish for me when I'm speaking it.
No, I mean, I understand it, but just
Yeah.
that I can't speak well, so then.
Yeah. So, but I wanted to tell you one shot I remember of Robert De Niro and Ronin. And I've seen many actors do a chase scene, but I never saw the kind of adrenaline and dread that I saw in Robert De Niro's eyes when he was driving. And he's driving like this, and there are fast cars incoming. You have no idea what happens to a man when there's a speeding cars going past you. I've seen actors just like casually do this and that. But when you see Robert De Niro's face, it looks like he is walking through a landmine of explosives around him. And you see it just on the face. Exterior shot ki zarurat hi nahi thi. I was like, this is goals. I should do something like that.
And you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want another joke?
No, I'm good. So, Anubhav, when you make movies based on real life subjects, which many of your movies are, even a Thappad may be fictional, but there's something, based on some kind of reality. What is more important to you, factual truth or emotional truth?
Emotional truth should be. At least on one occasion, I did not do it very well, and but it should be, because the reason why I look at it as a film is because I got emotionally connected to something around me. But yeah, so that should be the driver, and that I try my best to make sure that is the driver. But sometimes,
Do you want to mention the film?
Anek.
Okay, Anek.
Anek became too political for me,
Okay.
and politics took over.
But that is a political subject.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it was not a very easy choice. So I'm not saying I meandered carelessly.
Right.
It was a very, very treacherous path that I was walking, and at some places I should have been more with the emotion than the facts. And it was, see, Northeast is in any case a very not known subject, and in the rest of the country. So is South actually, but we think we know about the South. So
What's left?
the rest is the central India,
Northeast of it.
Northeast and South.
Yeah.
Rest is rest. So, but no, it should be driven by emotion or a character. Like Thappad was driven by a character, Article and Mulk were driven by emotions, Bheed was driven by emotions, Anek was too driven by politics. My balance was not great there.
So do you think the trick is to find one central character, and then have the others like satellites around them, so that they represent different points of view, and then the journey of the central character, the protagonist, is followed throughout? Is that the trick?
No, I think the central character is the audience.
Is the audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the guy walking with you.
Yeah.
So he is the central character.
No, मतलब हम लोग जब देख रहे हैं.
जो आप देख रहे हैं वो they are only experience generators
Okay.
for the audience.
It
Who's
makes it
walking
sound
with
very robotic. Experience generators.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we're talking about the science of it.
Huh.
But the protagonist in any film is the audience.
Is the audience.
It's not seen, but that's the person that you're making the film for. And then you could sometimes use a character to tell that story, or you could use a set of characters. I have this good habit of going inside of the secondary characters also. I love to know them, because I also write and co-write most of the times. I get the opportunity to. So if there is a neighbor in Thappad, I want to know her. What does she think of love? Is she looking for love or not? Whether or not that makes it to the movie. More specifically, when I'm briefing the actor, when I'm talking to the actor, this is the kind of information I'll give you.
Yeah.
And then it's up to your craft. And I tend to cast some of the finest actors in the business, and they're kind that they, and it might sound perfunctory, but it's not. That I'm really, really indebted to all these people and everyone who has worked in my films as actors. Indebted, grateful, and they're so good.
Yeah. So speaking of secondary characters, not that this character is exactly secondary, but I really like that part where they throw this body out when the women and children are evacuated in Dubai, I think.
Dubai.
And at the end, there's a person thrown out, and he says, "Wow, he'll get hurt," but he says he's already dead. And then this guy says this line, कि like, आप लोगों का privilege है जो आप death को tragedy समझते हैं, that or something like that. This
is the line.
This is the line. Yeah. So that's just a small thing that he says, but you could probably extrapolate it into something else in that person's life backstory, which you don't really get into too much. But that line gives so much of like life to that one person. Like that. He's not just inside this aircraft, but there's something that's happened to him outside of that aircraft, as well. And
Another,
that's,
another
I
dialogue
would
which
say that's true for all his dialogue. Right?
yeah, that's what I was just pointing out in
Yeah.
this particular.
there's another dialogue when him and Chaya, she says, "What do you want?" He says, "What do you want?" And she says, "I want to go home." And he says, "So do we." So, it's these are the perils of knowing a little more.
Huh.
That, it's very easy to, the very beautiful story Javed Akhtar Saab says that, when elevators came to public life, people didn't know how does it work. So this, you press number 5, it goes to 5, you press down, it goes down. They didn't know how it works. So they said it's automatic. So you tend to put things in an envelope. Then mobile phones came and people didn't know how is it happening. There are no cables, nothing.
Right.
And they say it's computerized.
Right.
So when sometimes you do not know or want to know, you put things in an envelope and make it convenient for you.
Right.
Similarly, terrorism in the world is seen through a lens, which is a more popular lens. But I look at it, I go inside and I try to figure out what happened, where does it. So when I was making Mulk, I read up on terrorism. When did the idea of terrorism start? What is terrorism and what is not? And I look at it slightly differently.
Right. No, I think what you're trying to say is that, the world is we tend to think more along the lines of black and white,
Yeah.
whereas
Grays.
you're trying to say that every character deserves empathy or some kind of understanding.
According to me, there is no black and there is no white.
Yeah.
There are only various shades of grey.
Right.
There's no white, there's no black.
Right. So
Also depends on where you're looking at it from.
right. I guess so. Anyway,
No, but I'm saying it's not. I can still have an opinion that it's black and white, right?
Yeah, of course.
The only thing is, what I take away from that is that he has a history.
yeah.
He has a kind of he has grown up in a place where death is common. That's my takeaway from
That's
it.
the
It's very
story.
hard.
Yeah.
I don't want to understand why. So because of that, I don't justify why he's doing this.
Yeah.
No, in my mind, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can only take away that he has grown up in a very rough environment, whatever it is that maybe as a child, if he's like to go one step deeper, you would say as a child he saw all this and he grew up hardened that way without even knowing why it was happening.
Exactly. So the point is exactly that, because it's like instead of just saying he's a bad guy, whatever it is,
Whatever
it's
he's
a
doing is a
complicated-
bad thing.
But it's
How
a
I
good-
would take
yeah.
away.
Of course it is.
Where he came from should not have happened to a child.
Right.
Is what both these things I will take away.
Exactly.
Right.
Whatever the reason,
Yeah.
children should not be, in an environment, or people should not grow up in an environment where death is common.
Right.
And even if you grow up in an environment where death is common, I would not accept what you're
What
doing.
you do, yeah.
So these are the two things that I would
Exactly.
take away.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
There's no empathy and all that. I mean, I wouldn't call it empathy.
empathy is just an attempt to get at something a little more than black
Understanding is
and
not
white.
empathy.
Yeah.
I understand where you're coming from.
yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
I don't empathize
Correct.
with
Yeah,
what
it's
you are
just-
doing now. I
Yeah.
don't
Like,
empathize.
Not now. Yeah. So finally, when to everybody, ये पूछना चाहता हूँ कि like there's the line that says, sometimes there's something like too much democracy. तो आप क्या सोचते हो उसके बारे में?
हाँ मतलब डेमोक्रेसी का वो सिस्टम तो है ही है, जिसमें कई बार चीज़ें ऐसी होती हैं जो खास तौर से मेरे जैसा कैरेक्टर जो कि एग्रेसिव है और वो 2-3 बार पहली लाइन ही उसकी यही है कि अरेस्ट नहीं करना चाहिए, सीधा ठोक देना चाहिए, ना रहेगा बांधना बजेगी बांसुरी। सो हिज पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इज के एक सिस्टम में, डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम में कई जगह से होके गुजरती है, उसमें कई बार चीज़ें विच इज दिस कैरेक्टर्स मुकुल मोहन्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, तो इसीलिए वो शायद वो झल्ला जाता है और कि इतना टाइम जो वेस्ट हो रहा है टू एक्ट, तो दैट इज अ काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन विच ही रिएक्ट्स दैट वे।
मेरी निजी राय में डेमोक्रेसी का कोई विकल्प नहीं है अभी, जब तक हमारे पास विकल्प नहीं है। हम इसी को कितना बेहतर बना सकते हैं, मेरे ख्याल से वही हमारा रास्ता हो सकता है, जब तक हमको कोई और सिस्टम नहीं मिल जाता, और अभी दूर तक तो वो सिस्टम दिख नहीं रहा है। सो डेमोक्रेसी का कोई विकल्प नहीं, मेरी निजी राय है।
There's no such thing as too much democracy. In my limited understanding of what's happening in our world, I think democracy is essential, and I think it's upon us how we own it and how we respond to it.
Right.
And like our constitution says, that there are fundamental rights, but there are also fundamental duties. So if you want to be an effective part of constitutional system, you need to exercise that right and be responsible towards your duties.
Yeah.
To the people, for the people, by the people. I don't think we can go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Because eventually, it's a collective of people that makes a society work or not work. So there's nothing called as too much democracy. We need more.
I asked him about what he said, or I
No.
asked about what I
Is there
feel.
such a
I
thing
wanted
as-
to just.
I
what-
think from
that
his
phrase.
perspective, he's
Yeah.
a guy who represents, like,
No, in your
that.
personal view.
My personal view, I don't think it's a choice. I would obviously
It's not
pro
even a question.
democracy. I think structurally, it's like a coalition government. Decision making may be slower. You need to. There's a line also that you need to bring in all parties and
Yeah.
this thing. That's the risk of the outcome of an election where it is. You need to create a coalition thing, but that's better than dictatorship or anything else, right? I mean, I would always say democracy.
Yeah.
Not that it's a choice, but I'm just more thinking about his character. Like, my character probably wouldn't say that. His character would say that,
Yeah.
because we need to bring in perspective.
Yeah, yeah.
He's saying, "Thok do salon ko,"
And that
whatever
is
it
democracy.
That is.
Yeah. So he's able to say it, and I'm able to say something opposite. And it's not like we are bound by saying
can't
only the
wait
same
for-
thing or doing the same thing.
Right.
So I don't think personally anybody here is going to say no democracy.
But there may
I
be
think only the
interesting
character.
points of view.
Just in that situation, he's saying
yeah.
something. He doesn't actually mean it, probably.
Yeah,
It's not like he would.
Yeah.
He's just in that thing where he has an opinion, he wants to do the job. Because it's a democracy, he has to consider everybody else's opinion.
Correct.
And things like that.
Sorry.
Right? So because in that situation, since the responsibility is on him, I think he wants to go ahead and do what he wants to do. And he thinks he has a solution. Right? I mean, it's another fact that he doesn't know about the red bag yet.
Yeah.
Maybe he
Why
wouldn't have
didn't
taken
you
that
tell
call.
anyone?
Sorry?
Why didn't you tell anyone?
No, I've told.
Who did you tell?
No, but as soon as the information comes, it's
Did
a
you tell
parallel
these
development
guys?
that's happening. Yeah, we tell inside there's a red bag. No, but there's a reason that there are considerations that he is not even aware of.
Yeah.
Right? But he's that mindset. He has that mindset. That's all it is.
And
Mr.
And
Sinha,
democracy is the only legitimate choice, it seems, that we have.
so all this discussion that's happening around this film is also part of the
Depends on which democracy you're talking about. The electoral democracy is, of course, we need it. The people should have the right to choose their leaders. But the bad news is that when you have been chosen, you don't like democracy. This lies the innate conflict of democracy, that the chosen representatives, whether or not they say it, and I'm not saying all, but most, in my opinion, don't like democracy. So, like, while he is a government servant, he works for the book. But, sometimes rightfully so, he needs to take an instant decision. But he's bound.
yeah.
And if he doesn't take a decision right now, it just might go out of hand, which it does in this case. But, these are the flaws of, that's that man at the moment. And people also change moment to moment. No, sometimes you like sweets, sometimes you don't like sweets. So, at that moment in time, he's not a democratic person, he's authoritarian at the time.
I think he sees it as something limiting his ability to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an impediment at
It's
the
just
moment, at the
I think
time.
voicing something.
Right, and also because it's such a pressure cooker situation.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I know all
But then he's also the
authoritarians
same
think
man
that.
who goes and, puts up with all the unreasonable demands that are
Yeah.
thrown at him, and
Yeah.
he wades through it and finally gets somewhere.
Yeah.
But then again, there are spurts of let's go inside and
Do this.
do this.
Yeah.
Which is such a human.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's what I get fascinated by. I don't think any human being is the same human being through the day.
Correct.
You're different people. And I really love those grays of
Those contradictions.
I think it's
of
a
people.
frustration also, right?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
frustration
yeah.
of- and also, invariably, you think you know better than your boss.
Yeah.
I think we've all been in that situation. Right?
You know better than him.
No, yeah, there are times when I think, what is he talking about? Yeah, there should not be like that. I say,
Especially because,
every actor is going to say,
he's directed something
no,
too.
not that way. I'm not saying I know better than him. What I'm trying to say is there are
that's
situations
a-
and you're frustrated saying, okay, then you, like when I used to tell like for example, money this, he'll tell me, yeah, do it in your film. When you make your film, do it. So it's like that. So it's a common thing. I'm sure you've been in situations where
Yeah,
you said, what
You have to organize a coffee for me with him.
Yeah.
yeah, of course.
Yeah. I've never met him. Money.
Finally, what's your next movie with Diya, Kumud, and Manoj?
And now Arvind, he's also become.
Oh, he's become
He's
part
also
of your-
quite addictive.
Okay, he's become part of the repertory cast.
We'll miss him very much.
So this
We'll
is
miss
the
you
only
in the
person.
next
Why?
project. Sorry.
बेचारा, why
Sir,
problem?
this
We'll miss you in the
तुम्हारा तो
next
नाम लिया
project.
ना उन्होंने?
नहीं लिया
अच्छा,
He's
तुम्हारा
saying-
ले
नाम
लो
नहीं लिया?
जल्दी
He's already on your side and saying
No,
we're
no,
going
he's
to miss
saying
you.
Arvind is there, but the question was about 3 of them, and then he included me,
Yeah.
and then he didn't mention you, so I said,
Yeah.
we'll miss you next film.
Because of one joke.
So I'm cooking a new concoction. There will be a newer kind of films from me. I can tell you that much. So I'm writing like 4 films. I figured that I like the box office more. I like the cinema hall more. And then I knew that Article 15 today has to be concocted differently. Mulk has to be concocted differently. And that's what I'm after. I'm trying to create those big screen experiences which will still have a voice.
But for what it's worth, I thought Mulk worked brilliantly on the big screen.
Yes,
Yeah, it did, but it did 23 crores.
Oh, you mean that way? Okay, right.
Yeah,
Article 15
I want to reach out to a much larger. I want Mulk today to do 200 crores.
he's talking
I
about a
think
larger
today, the
audience.
numbers
I
have
don't think he's
changed.
talking about the money here.
No, this is just indicative numbers. I don't mean exact box office numbers, but I want my
To reach.
same films with voice should not become niche films, should be mainstream films.
Right.
May not become Bahubali or Animal or Stree, but still a big mainstream film. And I'm creating that concoction.
That's going to be very interesting to see, because to see the combination of your interest and the mainstream interest, so to speak.
Also,
in this-
And our
thankfully,
skills.
Yeah.
Also, thankfully,
Except him.
I
Except
come
him.
from the world of Das and Ravan and Tumben. So there's music I have dealt with, VFX and action I've dealt with.
Yeah.
So it's not alien to me.
Yeah, I know.
I love shooting action, so I'll shoot action. I love VFX. If somebody called me and saw the show and he loved it, and he said all through the series I knew it's full of visual effects, but I couldn't find a shot that I could put my fingers on, which was such a huge compliment coming from a guy who specializes in visual effects. So some big screen storytelling and some dancing and some singing and some fighting, and still have a voice.
Nice. Look forward to that. And thanks all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you said you are a fan. I'm a
ready
fan
for the
of
couch.
what you do to film journalism.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hola! Your dream vacation to Hong Kong starts from rupees 74,999 only with GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.